Hey, welcome to Occam's Razor. This is Blazing Cat for Fridays, where we do a cold read through of the best news aggregate for people who think like me. I'd like to thank BCF for posting these live streams and for his tireless commitment to publishing a site every day for going on close to 20 years. Did you know that he has a news feed? Yes, he does. For when you just can't wait for the next BCF post to tell you what's going on in this crazy world. And if you'd like to help this veteran out, please follow me on Rumble so I can achieve the minimum follower threshold for the Rumble Creator Program. I'm also on CommieTube with backup channels. And while you're there, please feel free to comment. I'd love to read what you folks have to say. I don't know if you guys know this, but on Rumble, they have you can have one account and several channels. Whereas on YouTube, you are required to have a separate account and a separate channel for each one. CommieTube. Kind of like the Rumble thing better. All right, let's go to Blazing Cat Fur. Let's do a refresh because I have not looked at this page since yesterday. Ooh, he's got my live stream up. Nice. Big Chief Ford. Say white man speak with forked tongue. Doug Ford apologized over hat in hand comment about First Nations. Toronto. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has apologized for saying his First Nations should not keep coming hat in hand to the government if they say no to mining projects. Comment many First Nation leaders called racist. Ford delivered that apology in a meeting in Queen's Park Thursday to several dozen chiefs who are part of the Anishinaabeg Nation. And here's a post from Table Salt. UK grooming gangs report omits role Islamic superiority played in rapes of thousands. My God. And Tommy Robinson has been warning them about this for years. I started following the English Defense League as soon as they started making a splash back when we used to follow the primary existential threat to humanity on this planet back then, before all the globalists and the communists started taking over again. A landmark report into grooming gangs that sexually exploited mostly white working class British girls on an industrial scale has omitted any reference to the Islamist links or motivations of the overwhelmingly Muslim perpetrators. Hmm. While identifying clear evidence of disproportionately overrepresentation among suspects of Asian, Pakistani heritage men, the National Audit on Group-Based Child Sexual Exploitation and Abuse, published by the Home Office on June 16, focuses on the offender's ethnicity rather than their religion. Hmm. I'm sure the ideological makeup of their upbringing had nothing to do with their misogynistic, rapey cultural aspects. I'm sure it had nothing to do with it. What my right hand possesses. Or is it my left hand? I keep forgetting. Canada slashes forecast making housing more affordable. Well, of course, we have a housing minister who has a massive portfolio of investment in housing out in BC. He doesn't want his portfolio to drop in cost. He's not going to make housing more affordable in Canada. Are you kidding? You put in your storage container there, little fella. Enjoy your 15-minute city. Restoring affordability to levels last seen 2 decades ago isn't realistic, especially after post-pandemic price surge, CMHC said. The change in forecast highlights how widespread the housing affordability challenge has become across Canada. It's not so much 10 years, two decades ago. Housing was still affordable 10 years ago. In some areas, not so much. I have to say, over the 38 years that I was in the forces, when your possibility of getting posted came around um, every 3, 4, or 5 years or so, and you started talking to your career manager, I always feared getting posted to 442 Search and Rescue Squadron out in BC because I knew I would never be able to afford to live there. I would have to go on imposed restriction, live in the barracks until maybe one of the private married quarters finally came available after 2.5 years if I'm lucky at that time, and then move in there because there was no way, not even on a Spec 1 technician's pay, even as a master corporal or a sergeant, there was no way I could afford to buy a house in BC. And now that stupidity has invaded all of Canada. And they say, oh, sorry, no, nothing we can do. We're all just going to have to suffer. You're all just going to have to live 20 to a house. I have to go back to what happened in the early 90s. I remember my first posting at 427 Squadron. Housing was still very expensive to try to get a loan. You guys remember back in the late 80s, the bank rates were insane. It was almost as high as having a credit card. So in the early 90s, when people got posted to 427 Squadron in Petawawa, they wanted to buy a house. Well, they couldn't afford to do it on their own. So you would have two, three, sometimes four guys get together, go to the bank, make a contract, and they would buy a house together. And during the contract, of course, when they might get posted away, they would have to buy out his share. They made it all available and made it work. You know, this might have to be something that comes back is just people getting together, making a contract, and then buying a house together. But with that, you need a job, and unemployment is screaming upwards. Inclusive leftists consider denying organ donations to AFD voters. Isn't that just like the far left, eh? If they're not killing you to get their way, they'll make sure you die. Not content with working towards banning the alternative für Deutschland, German leftists are now discussing denying organ donations to the right-wing opposition party. And they are so desperate for power. Canada's spy chief says social cohesion weakening amid threats like terrorism, foreign interference. Yeah, no, social cohesion started destroying itself the moment this government broke its social contract by coercing Canadians into fascist medical mandates. And then when you started imprisoning political prisoners who were against your fascist medical mandates, that was it. You destroyed all faith anyone had in this current government, in the Liberal Party, as a matter of fact. And nothing weakens social cohesion more than killing and injuring your civilians and not being held accountable for it. And that's exactly what they did with this COVID-19 jibby jab. The director of Canada's spy agency warning about the state of social cohesion in the country, Daniel Rogers, director of the Canadian Security Agency, made the comment in agency's annual report in 2024, which was publicly released on June 18. Our social cohesion has been weakened in recent years, creating cleavages in our social fabric that threat actors seek to exploit, wrote Rogers, who took the helm of the agency in October 2024, replacing David Vigneault. Threat actors seeking to exploit. We've been exploited since 2015 by the liberals. Whoa, that's our threat actors right there. Mass immigration has made Canada into a balkanized nation of fifth columns, and that's exactly what Carney and his pals want. Exactly. Create crisis after crisis after crisis so that there's so many crises you can't keep track of them. You're constantly off your left foot and on your right foot and then constantly throwing shit at you, and then you can't keep track. Luckily, we do have a YouTuber out there who is keeping track, and that's Moose on a Loose. And keep waiting for him to put his big tracker thing that he has about all the lies and all the BS that's going on with the liberals and all the connections that Carney has with policies that they're trying to put forward. Rempel, Carney's defense plan signals a shift, but real capability is years away. Well, yeah, he's like just going to throw a bunch of money at whatever it is the Americans want to sell and still not be able to get boots on the ground. And that's where our real capability lies. If you don't have any soldiers joining, you don't have a military. You can throw all the money you want at it. Mark Carney's recently announced his government's intention to increase defense spending by more than $9 billion in order to rebuild, rearm, and reinvest. Nothing there about hiring, eh? Hmm? Okay. In the Canadian Armed Forces. Government declared that his positions, Canada, to meet the target of spending 2% of GDP in defense this year. The Prime Minister further promised that we will rapidly procure new equipment and technology. Canada will seize this opportunity with urgency and determination. We will seize. Yeah, you're going to seize. The only thing that's going to seize is the ability for the military to function as you continually run out of people and only have cultural Marxists left in your ranks who will find offense at everything and go to the MIR, become an MIR commando, not show up to work, be too stressed out. Oh, I have too much to do. I need stress leave. Yeah, these are the people left in the military now. No matter how much the left wants to riot, Americans still support ICE and want deportations. Of course, the leftists are making their point for them. They're holding riots on the street to say, we must save the illegals, and destroying their city in the process. Do you think that's good advertisement for wanting more illegals? No matter how much the left wing agitators want to riot to oppose enforcing immigration law, the American people still support immigration and customs enforcement officers and deporting illegals. That is the takeaway from a new Harvard Harris poll in the middle of Los Angeles anti ICE riots, and have been excused by Democrat leadership like City Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom. Yeah, of course. You people with your sanctuary state, your sanctuary city, and every time there's a fire or something, you guys don't even step up to help the owners rebuild their houses. You people are pathetic. And that's far left everywhere. You know, somebody's a liberal, somebody's a leftist, somebody's on the far left, especially the dippers. The only thing they know how to do is enrich themselves, spend more money, and the gift of the gab to keep you distracted while they do nothing. The British monarchy is hugely symbolic, but does it still actually stand for Britain? Yeah, this woke green scam, see you next Tuesday, um, is running out of options to make people still believe in the monarchy. The British monarchy stands as a symbol of national continuity, tradition, and sovereignty, except for his recent statements in getting involved in politics. At its heart lies the coronation oath, a solemn vow a monarch makes to rule according to law and custom, to maintain the Protestant religion, and to uphold the rights and freedoms of the realm. Oh, the Protestant religion. Except he's been really cozying up to Islam. This oath, taken before God and country, is more than a ceremonial rite. It is a pledge to defend British sovereignty and constitutional heritage. Canada's EV market was already in trouble. Tariffs made it worse, Ontario workers say. Of course it was. Did you know when you plug in an EV to charge it, and once it's fully charged and you unplug it, it continues to lose its charge whether you use it or not? That's right. It will never retain its charge. It's not like a battery, like a real battery that sits there. The battery that's connected into the EV system itself has a constant trickle charge going through, keeping the systems asleep and ready to operate. That means that you can't just charge your car, leave it in the driveway for 3 weeks, and hope that it's going to have a full tank of gas when you get ready to go. Because it won't. And then, of course, if the power goes out, like it's been doing more and more often in Ontario, oh, that was always like, hey, I can always just run my car, plug a couple of things in my car while it's running, and oh, no, wait, I have an EV. Oh, shit, it's not charged. And of course, the other problem with EVs, the charging stations. What's the main metal in those charging stations? Hmm, could it be something that thieves have been stealing at construction sites like there's no tomorrow? Yeah. As people get poorer and more desperate, they're just going to tear these charging stations apart just so they can go and cash in on the copper. Canada's EV market was already in trouble. Well, yeah, it was already in trouble because they're not affordable, they're not dependable, they don't have the range. And if you're going to use it in the winter, you're going to freeze your butt off because you're going to have to make a decision. Do I try to warm up or do I make it to the next destination? Yeah, and then you have charging anxiety the whole way. Who wants to drive a car that's going to give you anxiety nonstop? Bob Pullman recalls the optimism in the air when General Motors began producing electric vans in Ingersoll, Ontario in late 2022. As the first bright drop commercial van rolled off the line at CAMI assembly plant, GM executive union leaders and former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau touted it as a major milestone for electric vehicle production in Canada. Pullman, a Unifor representative at the plant, remembers talk of increasing shifts and hiring more people to produce 50,000 such delivery vans by 2025. Yeah. So other problems with EVs is that when they catch fire, when you get a thermal runaway on your battery, if the battery gets a little damage, then it's a little short there, and then you get a thermal runaway, and it catches fire, and it starts exploding. Well, the fire holes in Canada In fact, I don't think there's a fire hall on the planet that has the ability to extinguish a battery fire because you can't. It's like burning phosphorus. If you remember, well, a lot of people don't know this, but we used to learn in the military about phosphorus bombs. When they exploded, those little bits of phosphorus would go everywhere, and if they got inside your body, they would stop burning because they weren't exposed to oxygen anymore. So, in order to do the surgery, they would have to immerse the soldiers in a bath of oil to keep the oxygen from getting at the pieces of phosphorus that had been projected into their bodies. And they would go in and do the surgery in the oil and extract these pieces. And as they take them out of the oil, unless they put them in a vial in the oil itself to keep it from exploding. So it's the same kind of power of burning that you just cannot put out. And if you throw water on it, poof, it explodes even more. It's like throwing water at a hot stove. It's just going to sizzle and spatter and everywhere. Kind of like putting applesauce in a hot pan. Except that this hot, steaming, burning applesauce will explode and go 100 meters, 200 meters, 500 meters, who knows? So you got exploding vehicles. They don't have the range. They don't keep you warm in the winter. They constantly need charging, so they're going to be more expensive. And then when you're done with them, when you go to dispose of them, they haven't figured out how to dispose of all the pollutants, the heavy metals. They're not the heavy metals, you know what I mean, minerals that are in the vehicles. They're toxic. And what are they going to do with them? How are they going to dispose of them? And we know the EVs are much heavier than a regular vehicle, so their tires wear more, create more particulate in the air on major highways. So when you're driving down the highway, there's a lot of particulate there, and it's coming off all the tires. Those EVs a little heavier. Oh, and of course, if you buy an EV in Alberta, I believe they have a tax there, because without a gas tax to maintain the roads, where are you going to get your money? Oh, that's right. You're going to have to tax the EVs somehow. You're going to have to increase that tax somewhere along the way. And of course, there's the power to charge it. Cost of power is always going up, and it's going up and up and up because this ridiculous government doesn't want us to have cheap power. You are the carbon they want to replace. That's enough of EVs. A meditation on Diane West's Wake Up and Smell the Culture. Diana West has written a book on America's declining culture. Much of the book is taken up with the question of who is responsible. Oh, we damn know who's responsible. It's the red diaper doper babies in the 1960s that started teaching communism in the universities and that it spread from there. Did this happen because of a lack of vigilance? Well, there was vigilance in the 50s. In that case, vigilance against whom? Against the communists. Among the many named enemies, Diana West sees a threat from globalism. Yeah, the word for communists. Think of all those things having to do with the well-being of the planet or humankind. Ah, yes, the Hegelian deconstructionism of real science and reality wrapped up in a dogma through cultural Marxism that diminishes the value of people who don't agree with you. That is globalism, an ideology built over the last century by liberals and communists. Ah, called it. According to Diana West, the antidote to globalism is America First by Donald Trump. And that is why those of us who understand Trump understand what he's trying to do. And all those who have Trump derangement syndrome still don't understand what is happening globally to this planet by these communists and globalists. Calling them Asian grooming gangs is obscuring the truth. Oh, yes. Yeah. So we go back all the way to when the EDL started with Tommy Robinson. And it was really the first time I didn't realize up until this time that in the UK, out in Europe, they kept referring to Muslims as Asians. I was like, what? That doesn't seem to make any sense. Asians? We're near Asia. Oh, instead of saying Middle East, because they knew if they said Middle East, it would be this, it would be racist. So now they have to piss off all the Asians by grouping these guys. The Casey report It's right to refer to Pakistani men as overrepresented in these crimes. This reminds me, I believe, I don't know if it's still today, well, it was a decade ago, but the number one best-selling book in Pakistan was Mein Kampf by Hitler. One of the many refreshing things about Louise Casey's 197-page national audit into the grooming gangs is that it does not shirk from uncomfortable questions about the ethnicity of many of the perpetrators. The report published earlier this week refers to men of Pakistani origin overrepresented in grooming gangs a total of 28 times. Here, Casey is simply relaying what has been clear to most people for years, yet has never been obscured by the authorities, the media, and academia. How many times have we run into apologists who insist that Islam be recognized as a race? That's why I refer to Muslim rape gangs. Good point, BCF. It's a mystery. Kingston's prison's supervised drug site has had just one visitor. It is a mystery. More than a year and a half after it opened, a site at Kingston, Ontario, prison where inmates can consume smuggled drugs and other medical supervision, has only had one user. The Overdose Prevention Service at the Collins Bay Institute was set up as a place where prisoners could inject, snort, or swallow substances, all with a nurse on standby. It opened on November 28, 2023, becoming the first of its kind in Ontario and only the third in Canada. I didn't know this. This is ridiculous. That and it goes to what's happening in our prisons. A lot of people don't know this, but our prisons are in desperate need of more staff. They're understaffed. The prison guards, if you want to talk about people that have mental health issues, imagine a prison guard working in that situation day in, day out with people caged. It's a hard job. It's very demanding. And a lot of people say, hey, these people are criminals, throw them into the jails. Well, that's all very fine. But our jails are bursting at the seams as well. A lot of people don't pay attention to it. It's like the military in many cases, right? It's out of sight, out of mind. They don't really have a voice. I mean, they do have a union, but they're essential workers, so they really can't do anything. They, like the military, have been abandoned by this government, and things are only going to get worse. When you you can't control the illegal drugs coming into your prison, and you have to hire a nurse and set up a site for them to inject themselves or do drugs? Like, what the hell's going on? This, hey, do they have a free injection site in Parliament with a nurse on standby in case an MP has an overdose? Maybe that's what we need next. Coast Guard sharpshooter Peter Stinson, who made threats to kill Donald Trump, is freed from prison. Oh, what's going on here? The former U.S. Coast Guard lieutenant, or as in Canada we'd say a lieutenant, charged with making online threats to kill Donald Trump, has been bailed on condition that he declares his home gun free and pays for his internet use to be monitored. DailyMail.com has revealed. Trained sharpshooter Peter Stinson, 63, was arrested on Friday, charged with making a slew of disturbing social media posts against President, including saying he needed to be Luigi'd, a reference to Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in cold blood on a New York City street. But in a hearing on Wednesday, federal magistrate Judge Ivan Davis said he will order the self-declared Antifa activist released on home detention provided he reveals the whereabouts of his father's 22 rifle among other conditions. What was BCF say here? One of these little deep states Oswalds will work according to plan one day. Yep, yep. Were they three assassination attempts? Was the one that got him in the ear. There was the one at the golf club, and there was another possible one that they had stopped ahead of time. And who knows how many others that the FBI might have been investigating, never bothered to tell us. Foreign barbarians raping Britons? Seems like old times. Ah, yes. I'm watching a lot of Rome stuff about when they invaded Britain. The rape gang scandal is an apocalypse for the Great Britain. In the etymological sense of the word, an unveiling that reveals the truth of their condition. In ages past, clear-eyed people would have seen the sexual subjugation of women by foreigners as the act of conquerors. In today's Britain, though, the ruling class, politicians of both the Conservative and Labour parties, police, local administrators, and most of the media chose to turn a blind eye to foreigners, among them carrying out mass rapes of English girls. They did this, as the Baroness Casey report indicates, in service of multiculturalism and their liberal ideas. Right. So this is the end of the page. This is going to be the end of the show. I thank you all. If you've actually listened to this very end, please, once again, if you watch this, please come on over to Rumble and watch it there. Give us a like and give us a follow. We appreciate all of you people who come to this website and spend time with BCF. He's a great man. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.